Why do Chinese girls taste different from all other girls?
You think we better, huh?
No, just different. Like Peking duck is different from Russian caviar, but I love them both.
Darling, I give you very best duck.
Well, that'd be lovely. We have had some interesting times together, Ling. I'd be sorry to go.
To bed. We're too late. Well, at least he died on the job. He'd have wanted it this way.
Hello again. Essay here. Who is Albert Broccoli? Well, if you're familiar with Hollywood history, you already know. But for those of you out there who are ignorant, his one claim to fame, other than being involved in the death of Three Stooges creator Ted Healy, which I'm not going to get into, is being the main producer behind the James Bond films. And some of you say, oh, those things. Yeah, those things. But the thing is, old Albert, he kicked the bucket back in the 90s. And his daughter Barbara took over the operation. But apparently, old Barbara somehow lost interest. Why? Nah, that's a very good question. But it is what it is. I mean, the woman is in her 60s. And wait for it, you ready? According to the history books, she had been working on these films since the Spy Who Loved Me, which was back in the 70s. I saw that film in the movie theater, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But, yeah. But I guess after playing footsie with old, tall, dark, and dangerous, I guess she must have been getting, what's the cliche? She probably wants to do other things. I'm thinking. And of course, if you've watched the James Bond films, you know that they had a habit of swapping out the lead actor constantly. I mean, seriously. Because when I was a kid growing up, yeah, I watched the damn things that came on TV. And I have to admit, I did like Sean Connery. Yeah. He had... but then, when they brought on Roger Moore, who I remember from the old Saint TV show, I said, well, okay. And then, of course, I never did warm up to Timothy Dalton. What can you say? And then, of course, when they brought in Pierce Brosnan, I said, oh, yeah, the guy from Remington Steele, I remember him. And then, of course, finally, Daniel Craig, who, have to admit, according to, film historians, Daniel Craig's James Bond supposedly is the closest to the actual books. And I'm thinking, really? I didn't know James Bond, the books, was blonde, but whatever. But anyway, this video is not so much about the history of James Bond, but about something happened recently with the film series. And I'm going to show you a snippet of a segment from Fox News' The Five Show, but they actually talk about this recent event. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Next, Amazon's MGM Studios is taking creative control of the iconic James Bond franchise. With Daniel Craig officially shaken, not stirred into retirement, the search for a new 007 is on. Jeff Bezos recently asking fans who should be the next Bond. Well, I've got some ideas. Greg could star in The Man with the Golden Booster Seat, and Jesse could star in Die Another Toupee.
Oh, very nice.
I didn't really write those, but
thank you.
were they decent? That was pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So everybody wants, I believe his name's Henry
Cavill.
Cavill, because he's British and he's handsome and he looks like a spy. I agree. I think he'd be great. And Greg had some ideas for the Bond girls, and he'll tell you about those.
All right,
Go ahead,
well,
Greg.
well, I was thinking, you know what? Do they have to be biological girls?
30 genders.
Is Daniel Craig no
I didn't
longer
say
Bond?
30 genders.
He's
no
no longer Bond.
He's done.
Well, I know why. But anyway, they should have James Bond. If it's taken over by Amazon, he's got to drive the truck, right? He's got to drive the truck. He needs to kill villains with packing tape, you know? And instead of a martini shaken, not stirred, he should drink Gatorade from a plastic bottle that he can pee into later.
Oh,
Just like the Amazon driver, I know.
Judge, what do you think? I thought Idris Elba was also top consideration.
How dare you?
You know, before Greg
Is that
even
not
said
true?
it, the one thing I have on my notes is just don't make him trans. That's number one. And number two, I love Henry Cavill. I think he's great.
Yeah.
But I also love Brandon Scanlar, I think his name is. He's from 1923.
Oh.
He plays Spencer Dutton. He's very hot.
What's his
Oh,
name?
is he in contention?
I don't know, but I'm putting him in contention.
Brandon Sklenar.
Skenlar. Did you watch? He
He's
plays
not
Spencer
hot.
Dutton.
He's not
Okay.
hot.
You didn't see him
Not hot
on
enough.
the African
Not
safari.
hot.
He was
Okay.
very hot.
I don't need to.
Kaylee, any Bond thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the only one who could be Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, in my view, would be Kash Patel if he wants to leave FBI. And I'm sure he'd be in the front row of the theater, Jessica.
I don't know if that's
Nobody.
real or not.
No,
Yeah.
Kash Patel. Kash
Nobody's-
Patel for Bond.
That's your type?
Yes, that's my
Is Sean
type.
watching?
Let's go. He's
Yeah.
watching.
Okay. Stay right there. Fan Mail Friday's up next.
Okay, you saw that. Now, of course, some of you saying, "Oh, who cares? They've been swapping out the actor who played James Bond forever." True. But you gotta remember, you're not just dealing with swapping out one English, or in some cases, in the case of the guy, what was his name, Lazenby? I think I'm totally mispronouncing his name, but he was in Her Majesty's Secret Service. Oh, George Lazenby, that's right. Like I said, my memory is kind of Swiss cheese when it comes to the James Bond series. Even though I did watch all the films. Yeah, I watched them all. Though I have to admit, I didn't like the ending of the last one. I mean, why they killed off? I mean, why they had to kill him off? I mean, I don't understand. Okay, I just don't understand. But yeah, because I had to admit that ending surprised me. I figured maybe somehow, some way he would like survive, but nah. They said nah. They just wipe him out in an airstrike and be done with. And I'm thinking, really? That's kind of final. But then again, anyone who knows the books knows that they ran out of books ages ago. Yeah, true. You can look it up. Because funny thing about those James Bond books is they didn't have that many. I mean, seriously. And of course you say, but they've had like about what, a couple of dozen James Bond films. Yeah, that's true. But when it comes to actual books, no. They just didn't have that many. Why? I think probably because the guy Fleming died early. Yeah, he died back in the 1960s. And of course, from what I recall about Fleming, the guy, he was a spy, technically. I mean, he worked for, was it the Royal Navy's Naval Intelligence? So during the Second World War. So yeah, he knew something about spy versus spy stuff. But yeah, they didn't only wrote that many stories. So then you say, so how are they chemically cranking out films? Probably because the Broccolis basically took creative license. And they just kept cranking out movies, even though there's actually no book there. Now, of course, some of you smart people saying, yeah, but then they went out and hired other people to write James Bond books. Yeah. In fact, I remember back in the 80s seeing some of those books in the bookstore. And I remember looking at those books and I said, wait a second, this is a James Bond book? And then I remember seeing the name and I said, oh, that's not Ian Fleming. Who the hell is that? And I said, I thought that was just odd. But yeah, they hired, I think, a couple of writers to write those James Bond books. First back, I think, in the 70s and 80s, and then they hired another fella who wrote them, I think, up until, I think, the beginning of this century. But yeah. Now, of course, some of you saying, oh, but the people at Amazon, they're going to ruin things. And I'm thinking, yeah. But the funny thing about this whole damn Amazon deal is not what you think. Because according to the computer, Amazon took over MGM 2 years ago. You say, what? Yeah. Apparently what happened was that Amazon apparently was looking for acquisitions, and apparently MGM came up for sale, or I think the official name was MGM Holdings, but whatever. And according to the computer, after a bunch of horse trading, eventually the people at Amazon put up not one, not two, but if I remember correctly, it was like $8 billion to buy MGM UA. No, the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle. And now you're probably saying, well, if that's the case, then why are they only coming out now, 2 years later? And I'm thinking, that's a very good question. No real answers. But they made the announcement, I think, what was it, just a few days ago? Yeah, I think so. But yeah, they only made the announcement, on the 20th. Where and this is the part that's really iffy, really wobbly now, because according to the official press announcement, Barbara Broccoli is not officially giving up all rights on the books and the films. Because according to the computer, her daddy, Albert, he acquired the rights to the books, at least the books that existed at the time, back in 1961 for a measly $50K. And you say, damn, that's cheap. Yeah, well, at the time, no one outside of England knew who the hell Ian Fleming was. So there you go. Therefore, you could say they got it practically for a steal. But still, the official statement says that she, Barbara, is not officially handing over the entire rights to Amazon. Which, wait for it, you ready? After the acquisition of the MGM, Amazon is now referring to itself as Amazon MGM Studios. And now, right now, you're probably saying, huh? Yeah, well, that's the name of this company now, Amazon MGM Studios. So, but regardless of that, there is a question about the why. Because if you go back to the history of the Broccolis and the MGM, which was the main distributor for the films, is that the Broccolis, owned everything when it came to James Bond. They owned the rights, they owned the likeness, etc., and they made the films, and then MGM, they had the rights for global distribution. That was the arrangement. So MGM technically didn't really own anything when it came to James Bond, other than the distribution rights. That was it. But why Barbara would just give up the rights, I don't understand. In fact, officially, the official statement says that she's given up half of the rights, and that supposedly Amazon, MGM, and Broccoli. I think if I remember her company's called Eaton Productions. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, they'll own it jointly. But of course, now this is the part that makes people kind of lose their lunch. As part of the official statement, and believe me, when I read this, I couldn't believe it myself when I read it. They said that as part of the agreement, Barbara would give up full creative control over the Bond rights. Now, some of you say, well, that technically means that she basically has no say over who they hire to play the character. Now, of course, some of you are really just tossing your cookies at this point, and I'm thinking, And that's the part I can't stand. Why? Because there's no thing in the official statement saying that any money was changed hands. Now, of course, if the people had given her like a big bag of money, then I could understand that. But like I said, there's nothing in the official statement that says they gave her anything. So it makes you wonder why. I just don't understand. Like I said, there's just so many unanswered questions about what's going on here. But you smart people out there knows that you can't trust the people at Amazon, especially after what happened to, as Jeremy from the Quartering calls it, the ring-a-ding-dings of power. Yeah, remember that schlock fest? I remember that schlock fest. And believe me, the disaster that Rings of Power was that prequel to the Lord of the Rings mess that those people slapped together. When you see what the Amazon did to that IP, and then you're looking at James Bond, you're sitting there saying, oh crap. Yeah. And wait for it, you ready? Back in the 90s, before, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was either right before or after Pierce Brosnan was hired. I remember reading articles in the newspaper where there were certain people at MGMUA who reached out to the Broccolis and wanted to change the nature of Bond. Now, before you can say, uh-oh, yeah. And indeed, one of the suggestions was they make Bond a closet homosexual. And you say, wait, what? Yeah. I saw it, read that article. I couldn't believe it. And of course, at the time, Barbara, who had just taken over because her father had just died, she said, no way, Jose, it ain't happening. Fuck you. Have a good night. And of course, like I said, that was back in the middle 1990s. But of course, you jump forward to the present day. And if you remember in the last film, it was almost like they were trying to shoehorn in some black woman to be the new 007. Remember that? I remember that. So at that point, you say, oh, crap. Yeah. And now that Amazon, or Amazon MGM, has now got their claws in James Bond, well, let's just say this. If they have a normal, heterosexual English dude, shaken, not stirred, licensed to kill, playing the next James Bond, that will be a miracle. I mean, at the very minimum, they'll probably change James Bond to a woman. And at worst, they'll probably make him a a transsexual, furry, what do you call it, non-binary drag queen. And at that point you say, oh yeah. And you know what? I think these people might actually go that route. Now, of course, some of you are saying, but good grief, why would they want to destroy one of the biggest, longest running film series ever? Why? Because these people, let's not pretend, these wokesters, now I have to admit, MGMUA is not as bad as Disney. But you got wokesters throughout Hollywood, so they're probably in MGM as well. Like I said, these people don't care about money. They just care about their ideology. And I think Broccoli should know better. Now, if they go that route, the woke route, and do something crazy with the character, I think she might regret her her life choices. But by that time, it'd be too late. In the meantime, old farts like me, who grew up watching the James Bond films, will just sit there and say, great, another franchise ruined. Yep. But, hey, who knows? The people at MGM might surprise us and hire somebody new, because as you saw in that snippet from The Five, Judge Janine mentioned some guy from one of the spin-off series from Goldstone, you know, the Kevin Costner series. I think she said it was what, 1920, was it 1923 or 1923 TV series? She mentioned some English guy that was on there. I mean, I didn't watch it myself, so I don't know which guy she was talking about. And of course, they also mentioned the guy who's been playing Superman in all the Superman films, no, Man of Steel films. And I'm thinking, yeah, but doesn't mean he'll probably do it, because right now I think he's still playing Man of Steel. You know, Henry Cavill. And of course, that's right, he was doing the Witcher show, but I think he walked away from that because the people started screwing that show up, but whatever. But yeah, there's no guarantee that Henry Cavill will do James Bond, because funny thing is, I never seen Henry Cavill, speak in his normal British English. Because every program I see him in, he's always doing an American accent. So, whatever. But yeah, this whole damn deal, it just smells wrong. And no one knows the future, but you can look at trends. And the trend tells me that just like with Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, the people at Amazon, MGM, are going to screw up James Bond too. Just saying. Just a quick reminder to all of you that my short story, The White Cat, is still available on Substack. The links are down below in the description. Join Margot Thompson, a beautiful stage actress and recent widow, who finds salvation in the form of a white cat during a night of terror. And while you're looking up my oddball thriller, my book series, Glitch, is still available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookstores. The links are down below in the description. Join Ike and Sandra, a reluctant jewel thief and a kidnapped teen model who are on the run from the law across the American Southwest. Well, that's all I gotta say about coming attractions. And you've been warned. That's my opinion.